Hello, my name is Teresa Doherty, and I am the coordinator for Business and Information Technology programs here with Virginia Beach City Public Schools. It is my pleasure to take you through some training today for the Creative Coding and Computer Solutions 2 course, which is an elective course offered through our middle schools. So what I want to do is share with you our Schoology group, and we'll go ahead and get started. So let me see here. I'm going to get us over here. Hopefully what you are looking at right now is the group for our Schoology group for our Creative Coding and Computer Solutions 2 class. So let me just kind of explain to you a little bit about how this works for those who are just starting this class this year. The course, the Creative Coding and Computer Solutions course, is a non-credit bearing elective exploratory course offered under the Business and Information Technology umbrella at the middle school level. So what that really means is it provides us a lot of flexibility, and oftentimes there will be a wide cross-section of teachers who teach this class. So we have business teachers who teach it, but also oftentimes I'll find world languages teachers, there could be physical education or arts or music teachers who are teaching this as well. And site administrators have a little bit of flexibility in how they organize this at their site, depending on what the needs are, what their numbers are showing, kind of what demand they might be having at their site. So just to kind of give you an idea of who your colleagues are when you're teaching this class, you've got a lot of different folks from a lot of different backgrounds. And I like to think that that's something that helps us keep an open mind and be a little bit creative and flexible ourselves as we teach this to our students. So the course itself runs about 9 weeks. And what we've done is taken a computer solutions competency course that's offered at the state level, and we have heavily supplemented it with local competencies, which is how we came up with the creative coding and the computer solutions together. So the computer solutions, if you go to our Verso website, the CTE website that holds all of the competencies for all of our CTE classes, you'll notice that it only says computer solutions, and I'll show you in just a minute the link to the Verso website so you can kind of see that. What we've done is added those those competencies locally that supplement the coding side, and that was because there weren't any coding classes per se that were available as an exploratory for students at the middle school level, and we really thought that would be something that there was an interest in, a demand for, and a need for. So that's kind of how we got here. So what we've done is we've broken this down into 3 different classes. There is a Foundations of Creative Coding and Computer Solutions. That's the first class, and that is also a 9-week exploratory course. Students should be sitting in that course before they take this course. That said, there technically is not a prerequisite for this course. So if you have students that pop into your class here that have not taken your Foundations course, you can't necessarily boot them out, but you might want to have a conversation maybe with them, with the school counselor, just to make sure that they're going to be comfortable catching up, getting up to speed. And I'll tell you, a lot of our students are so brilliant. You may find that that they're running circles around you in no time. So just know that there's not technically any prerequisite. It is an exploratory, but the idea would be students would take that Foundations of Creative Coding and Computer Solutions 9-week course, and then they would take this course next, the Creative Coding and Computer Solutions 2 course. The idea is that they are buildable, that you're taking concepts and things that you learned in the first class, and you are going to apply them in this class and kind of move forward from there. We also offer a semester-long course that is an Advanced Creative Coding and Computer Solutions course. It is on the books. It's not offered everywhere. Like I said, it just depends at the middle school level. And I know those of you who've been teaching middle school for a while know that it's a little bit tougher when you get to a semester course offering because of what the students have to sacrifice in order to fit that into their schedule. So we find that we have more students who are taking these first 2 courses than students who are taking that last course, that advanced course. So at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and dig in here just a little bit and share with you what we have. And what I'd like to do is kind of run you through very briefly what resources are available in here. And then I want to finish by focusing on specifically what the needs are for the school year 2020-2021. So this recording is taking place in August of 2020. Clearly, there have been a lot of things that have changed in how we are conducting education right now. And so I definitely want to make sure that we're ending on that note so that you're clear on kind of where to find things and especially how that first 9 weeks is going to run. But to get us started, I want to kind of show you where you can find everything. So most of the time you're going to be in the resources tab here on the left hand side. This updates is just kind of a landing page. I don't put a whole bunch of updates or anything in here. Mostly I'm going to put things in resources, and then I always encourage you to use the discussion board to kind of share among the division wide, especially because right now we don't have the capacity to get together in a single room. This really provides an opportunity for us to communicate and collaborate in a way that allows us to kind of come together when we can in one place. Okay, so let's take a look at these resources here. At the very top, I just want you to note that training and updates folder. This folder is going to stay at the top pretty much forever, for as long as we have this course. And when this recording is done, this is where it's going to be uploaded. And then any other updates that come from year to year, the idea would be that these 2 would be uploaded specifically in this folder, so that anytime you need to go back and review something, anytime there's someone new, let's say a teacher retires, you have another teacher who's coming in mid-year, this is a great place to go and grab those that training, just to kind of get a general idea of what the course is about and what you're going to be teaching. So I just kind of wanted to highlight that at the top. This is the part we're going to come back to, that virtual learning support. Instead, I want to go ahead and run down here just really quickly. This is typically what you would see in your resources and resources site for this course, and most of the time you would be using the resources that are in here, and this is kind of broken down by unit. However, because we have things moving just a little bit differently this year, I've shifted the pacing guide just a tad. But if you're looking for more in-depth resources, this is where you're going to find it. So if you'll remember, I told you that we took a computer solutions course and we wrapped a coding course around it. And so what you're going to see in the first unit would be a lot of those computer solutions competencies. So things that talk about computer security or maintenance, things that are going to kind of do little coverage of spreadsheet software or database software, that kind of thing. You'll have a little bit of that in there. You're also going to have a lot of review from the foundations, and that was intentionally put in the first unit of this course because we don't know how long it is between the time a student takes a foundations course to the time that they are taking this part 2, or as I said before, if they perhaps never took the foundations course and they're just starting with the part 2 course. And again, that really is dependent on each site. So the way that these are broken up, students could take the foundations course in the 6th grade and this part 2 course in the 7th grade and an advanced course in the 8th grade, or they could take the foundations and the creative coding 2 course part 2 back to back, one quarter and the next quarter. So because of that, we really felt like there needed to be some leeway for some review as we're starting in this part 2. So the hope is that they've taken the foundations and they're immediately moving into this. If that is not the case, this unit 1 gives a little bit of grace so that you can go back in and review some of those concepts so that the students are all caught up and ready to move forward. from that point. Now, something I do want to mention about these courses, and this is especially for my teachers maybe who are not familiar with business, maybe they don't feel super tech savvy, maybe, you know, this is the umpteenth prep that you are trying to put together and it's not in your wheelhouse. I do want to just remind and reassure you that this is an exploratory course and it runs for 9 weeks. So the idea is that the students are getting a taste of a lot of different things. It's a very broad brushstroke kind of course. So no one is expecting the students to come out of here being coding experts. They're not supposed to all of a sudden know how to put computers together and take them apart. The idea really is that you're just exposing them to these different topics and concepts, and hopefully for some, it's going to spark an interest and a passion, something that they can pursue through some of the other programs that we offer at a secondary level or at a high school level or one of our specialty centers. So that's really the idea, not that every kid is going to come out a coder, but more that you're just going to kind of touch the surface of a lot of different things. And quite frankly, 9 weeks is not a very long time. So you're not really going to have the time to get into any of these topics very deeply. So hopefully that alleviates some of your anxiety. Know that I'm always here to help you, and certainly we've got some rock star teachers on our roster that I know are always happy to lend a helping hand as well. So never hesitate to reach out if you find that you're struggling just a little bit, or you just kind of want to get an idea of what direction to go into. I'm always happy to help. That's what I'm here for. So at any rate, this is typically where you would find all of that information. I do try to break it down as much as possible. So as you can see in Unit 1, there's a lot of that computer solutions part, which is really just kind of building and reviewing what they might have seen in the foundations, and then that review of the CS Fundamentals Express course in code.org, which is what we kind of use as the framework for these two classes. Unit 2 is really where you begin the Creative Coding 2 class, and that starts with lesson 16 in code.org. As I said, we use the Fundamentals Express course, which is great. One of the things that we have shifted to this year is to a ClassLinks platform versus a Clever platform. So if you have been with us here in Virginia Beach, you'll notice that we use the Clever platform kind of as a single sign-on for a lot of different software applications and websites. And the idea is that it automatically recognizes you as a teacher. It ties your students to you, so you can populate classes almost instantly. It's super useful in a lot of different ways. And they've opted this past summer, the summer of 2020, to shift over to ClassLinks, which operates very similarly. It just has a few more bells and whistles, and your ITS, I'm sure, will tell you a little bit more about that in a different training. But just know that code.org is one of those things that will be on ClassLinks. And so you'll be able to, if you had something on Clever, it should be shifted over, so you should be in there. If this is all brand new to you, I do have some information in here about creating an account on code.org, but really you should be able to go to ClassLinks and have it generated automatically for you, so you don't have to go do the legwork of creating any account or getting anything whitelisted or any of that stuff. So all of that to say, Unit 2 is really kind of where the fun begins. And Unit 2 specifically goes through lessons 16 through 22, which probably sounds like a lot, but I will tell you what we have found as we're going, trying some of these out, we kind of rolled it out over a couple of years' time, is that you can actually move at a pretty good clip with these, with the students in the class. Now, I don't know how this is going to work virtually, so we may wind up having to shift to the pacing after the first 9 weeks, depending on what we find. But the idea is that this gives this, again, it gives you a little bit of freedom on either side. And I do have some extension lessons and some enrichment projects that are in here specifically for that reason, depending on what your students are capable of. This is a part 2 course, so if they've got the basics down, it could be that this just moves a little bit faster than your foundations class moves, and that's okay. So anyway, each of these, when you get onto code.org, I just kind of want to show you a little bit about what this might look like. And I will let you get into this and explore it more yourself. But one of the reasons that we opted to use code.org as kind of a backbone for this, and specifically the Fundamentals Express course, is because it really is laid out beautifully, almost day to day. And for my teachers who don't teach this every day, this provides an awful lot of support, even more support than what I could come up with, you know, in-house. So if you just kind of take a peek at this lesson 16, look at this. It's even got an agenda for you, everything from the warm up to suggestions for extended learning. It tells you exactly how to prepare, check your links to make sure that those work, all kinds of good stuff. It gives you your objectives that are up there. And this also, by the way, it gives you with the students, it will show kind of where the students are at with their progress. So this is the teacher side of it. So you can kind of see there's teacher prep information up over here. But what the students see when you assign things to them, you also are able to kind of see where they're progressing through a particular lesson. This also, by the way, is not a plug and play. So I don't want you to think that you are no longer needed when you're using a program like this or a resource like this. That's in no way true. You are still needed to be the educator, the person who's guiding the students, who's supporting the students, and who's truly teaching the students. This is just a really strong support for you to start out with. So doesn't mean you don't have any homework of your own to do. You're still going to have to do some preparation. You're still going to have to make sure you understand the lesson well enough to teach it to somebody else. That's the whole idea. But just know it's not a plug and play. You're not going to be able to just stick your students on this and let them teach themselves. That's not the point. And you know, certainly that's not what I would expect to see anywhere in any classroom in Virginia Beach, whether it was coding or not. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to scroll through this really quick, just so that you kind of had an idea of what you could expect with this. Like I said, I really like it because it has so much support, because it takes a lot of that legwork and the guesswork out for folks who aren't super familiar with this, and it gives you a nice guide. So I would for sure encourage you to go through some of these. It's okay if you're only one step ahead of the students. I think any first-year teacher or any teacher who's teaching a new prep for the first time will tell you that that is kind of the nature of the beast. So, and a lot of times when you are teaching quarterly classes like this, you do end up with more preps than the average bear. So I know that you probably are have that experience a little more often than some of my high school teachers perhaps. So just know that's okay. If you're just a step or two ahead of the kids, that's okay too, because eventually you're going to be 5 steps ahead of them. So not to worry. All right, I'm going to bring us back over here, back out to our resources. So this class, I really broke it down into about 3 units, but because there was kind of a discrepancy between the pacing for some of the students as we were moving into that second year, I added a few items down here for extended learning and then also for extension projects. And these are not required necessarily for you to get to. As long as you get through these 3 units, then you're perfectly fine. Like I said, 9 weeks is not a very long time. However, if you find that you you have students, maybe this is a great way to differentiate. If you've got some that are a little bit faster than others, if you have some that, I know sometimes a student will be placed into the same class twice. I know sometimes that happens. I'm not sure why or where, but I would imagine with especially the virtual learning, we may see some of that. This is a great way to have those students who maybe have been through this course before be able to extend some of that or offer some enrichment so that they're not twiddling their thumbs through things that topics that maybe you've already covered. So that is that's the general resources. That's what you would typically see. The competency logs, because we use so many local competencies, we put together a Word document. So like I said, if you go out to Verso, you're only going to see the competencies for the computer solution side. You're not going to see the competencies for the coding part. So that's why we have created one that's a Word document. So when you're looking for what the competencies are, this is kind of what you are going to want to look at. I will tell you that Verso is going through a change. Their website crashed this last year, and so they're working to update it. And one of the updates that they have done this year, which you won't see on this because this is an older competency list, but it's still the same competencies, so that's fine. But what they've done is they've taken all of these workplace readiness items and the student life items, all of that stuff, and they took that part out. So it's something that those competencies they exist in every single CTE course. And so they took them out as the competencies that you see at the beginning, and rather than doing that, they just start directly with the competencies that are related to the content of that course. At any rate, at the very bottom is where you will see locally developed competencies, and those are the ones that you'll be focused on. This is a really funky looking, the way that this is pulled, the way it looks right now, at least on my screen. I don't know if it looks like that on your screen, but if you download this, it should be just fine. So if you just click the download button, you can always save it as a PDF if you want, and it should look better. It should be a better version of that. If not, just let me know and I'll send one to you. That's not a big deal. Okay, some of the other things that you're gonna see down here, I'm gonna skip down to our strategies just briefly, just so that you can see what's in here. Now, most of these are strategies that are related to pedagogy. So if you're looking for ways to do something, improve something in your classroom or do something different, maybe there's a particular area that you want to work on, or maybe you're just looking for ways, different summative assessment ideas, or what does gradual release look like? People keep talking about it. There's just a whole bunch of different stuff. So maybe, now this wouldn't be the year for it because we're all learning virtually, but you know, let's say you decided that you want to shift around the seating and you want to try something different. So Flexible Seating and Student-Centered Design is an article that will get you started in the right direction. Some of these articles are a little bit older, but they're still relevant. And I do try to go through and kind of update these and make sure that the links are still working and so on every so often, just so that all of that stays pretty relevant for you. But if it's in here, typically it's because it's something that's good and it's worth reading or using. So I hope that you'll take this and kind of, you don't need to use it all at once, all at the same time. I would really kind of look at this as a reference book that you keep on your shelf. And it's something just when you need a little something, this is a great place to go. And rather than having to, you know, go to Google and figure out what somebody else has done, I've tried to curate some of this stuff for you that I know is quality and that I know is going to be helpful for you because it was helpful for me or helpful for other teachers. And that's why it's in here. So hopefully that's something that you do find helpful as well. I don't recommend a lot of blogs, but Cult of Pedagogy is a really good one that I like. She was actually a former English teacher. She wasn't even a CTE teacher necessarily, but really a smart lady. She's got a lot of great information. It's all free. She does podcasts and webinars, as well as actual downloadable things that you can have. Some of them I think are paid, and some of them are free, but she's always got really great information on her blog, and it is it's pedagogically sound. So it's something that that I like to recommend. And then there's some suggested reading in there. The other things that I have down here are, excuse me, these are just some suggested strategies for social emotional learning, which is in 2020 more important than ever. So I would definitely encourage you to kind of take a peek at those if you get a chance. And we also, of course, have stockpiles here right within Virginia Beach for social emotional learning and culturally responsive practices. So those are some things I wanted to make sure that you had access to as well. I will say anything that that we have for Virginia Beach oftentimes will require that you are logged in as a VBCPS employee in order to access. So if you're trying to click on this from home and it's not working, just go over to your little Google person and make sure that you're on your school identification rather than like your personal Google account, and usually that'll fix it. Okay, so enough about that. I'm going to come back out here and talk a little bit more about this virtual learning, and this is kind of where I want to wrap up today. You'll notice that I didn't go through all of these, and that's because they're not really relevant right now, and certainly I can go back and do updates later on, or if you have some questions about some of the things that weren't covered over here, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to do a one-to-one with you if you'd like. But what I'd like to do right now is just focus on that virtual learning support, because this is really where you're going to be spending your time, at least in the fall of 2020. This is where your focus will be. So what we've done is put together a folder that contains everything, hopefully, that's going to help you during these first 9 weeks, especially as we're starting out in a virtual learning environment and hopefully transitioning into a face-to-face environment. So you're going to find a pacing guide, some course competencies, and some online resources that have been curated just a little bit more for you. So the idea is that it's going to better support you, not necessarily going to replace the learning that takes place, but definitely going to support you. So at the very top here is the pacing guide for the first 9 weeks, which for you guys, for the Creative Coding 2 class, is basically the whole class. And you'll notice the way that this is broken down, it's just kind of simplified. So the week is right here, the topic that you would be covering is right here, the resources that you would use are here, and then the competencies that are being covered are right over here. So you'll notice the first few weeks, it's that computer security and software, and then also a review of the foundations concepts. So that's all the stuff that we just talked about, where there's computer solutions material that's in there that you're reviewing, and also the foundations of creative coding concepts. Those are in there for the first few weeks as well. Something I do want to point out, especially for my folks who have taught the foundations course or taught these courses in the past, we did have an EduTyping subscription. That subscription has, we decided not to renew that in June, and instead we are moving forward with typing.com. And I do have some more information about that, but I did want to at least point that out in here. The other thing that we've got is BE Publishing eReadiness, and I did send an email out about that over the summer. Again, I've got a folder specifically with information about how you can get started with that. And then of course the code.org, which we already looked at. So like I said, this just kind of covers everything. It's a very broad brushstroke conditionals and functions. If you go back into those resources that we were looking at, the unit 1, 2, and 3, what you're going to notice is as you get into those weeks, that's kind of what you're going to be covering, are the conditionals and the functions, and then you're going to start to move into variables. So a little bit of cyberbullying information, lessons in there. And then if you have time, you can get to sprites, and that's, I think, lesson 33, which is not part of the original, but if you're able to get to it, great. If not, you may end up extending one of these in here, and it might end up taking up that time, and that's okay. So that's your pacing guide that you'll be looking at. Those course competencies and the workplace readiness, remember how I told you Verso split those out, the workplace readiness competencies from the rest of the course competencies? I went ahead and put this in here separately so that you had some resources specifically for those competencies. So CTEX has been around forever, and it's just kind of a landing site for a whole bunch of other resources. So rather than list all of those resources, which I thought would be a bit overwhelming for you, instead, what I did is I put the link for the landing page for all of the teaching resources. So it's got lessons in there, it has modules, it's got all kinds of different stuff, links to other places. So I wanted to just go ahead and plug that in there. This is that link I was telling you about that will take you to Verso, but it's only going to show you the computer solutions. And right now it's a PDF because they're working on the website. So eventually when they get the new website up and running, this PDF will be replaced with a link to the new website and the new competencies for you. And then lastly down here are the workplace readiness competencies. And this is just a PDF that just kind of explains how the competencies, those first 38, come together. Okay, so these 3 red folders that you see are the specific resources that I would encourage you to use while you're teaching this course, especially this year. And you'll notice that each of them has in parentheses to the side the word ClassLink, and that's because these all 3 should be on ClassLink, which will, in theory, make your life easier. So the idea is, rather than you having to go to code.org and typing.com and eReadiness.com and create accounts and get things whitelisted and make sure that your kids can access it and all of that fun stuff and set up classes, instead of doing all of that, all you have to do is go to ClassLink, click on the icon that's code.org or typing or eReadiness, and it automatically recognizes you as a VBCPS teacher, and it knows which kids belong to you, and you're able to create everything right there. So it just kind of acts as a portal and a pass key, and it's lovely when it works. So ClassLink is something that they're still setting up. So I haven't been able to try this. I have put in the request and asked for a confirmation to make sure that these things are on there. So if they're not, they will be. Certainly I'll be following up to make sure that that happens. In the meantime, though, I do have resources for you to get started. So if you have to start by creating an account, I do have information in there about how to make that happen. I also have information in here. This is the code.org folder. I do have more information about the whole course, just as a whole, just so you kind of know what it is, because I know we've broken it down. A little bit goes in the foundations course and a little bit goes in this part 2 course. But if you want to see the course as a whole and see what it covers and what the intention is from where the kids are starting to where you really want them to be when they wrap up the course at the end of the Creative Coding 2 class, this will give you a really good idea about how that works. Also, code.org just really does right by teachers. If you've ever used it, I know a lot of folks have used for Day of Code. A lot of times they'll go to code.org. They've got a ton of different blogs and FAQs and all kinds of stuff to support teachers. They want them to use this product. They want it to be something that's useful to your kids and that's going to spark that, hopefully that passion in coding. So I did put a link down here to using code.org as a teacher, but I think you'll find, much like Pinterest, that you can click on things in there and you're going to get lovely little nuggets of information. Then you're going to see something else you want to click on and see something else you want to click on. And all of it will be informative and helpful and inspiring, I think. But I wanted to, rather than overwhelm you again, just give you that single link, and I think that'll probably just give you a place to start, and I think that's a good way to go. Now, I did mention briefly that we were using EduTyping in the past. EduTyping was purchased because we had standalone keyboarding and keyboarding applications classes. And over the course of the subscription with EduTyping, those courses went away. They were retired by the state and have now been absorbed into other courses like the digital applications course. So rather than paying for the subscription for EduTyping, we have opted to go with typing.com, which is actually a free resource for teachers and for students, and they've really beefed up what they offer in the last couple of years, and there's just a ton of stuff that's on here that matches what we were paying EduTyping to do. Some of it is even better in my opinion. So you can go here, and this is just kind of the home page to give you an idea of what the resource looks like, but I really think it's probably better for you to go and take a peek at some of this stuff just to see what they offer, because it's so much more than just keyboarding. You can still do all the same things that you did with EduTyping. So for those of you who were keeping track of your classes and were sending assignments and creating custom quizzes and tests and all those kinds of things, you're still going to be able to do all of that. And they also have these other things, the lessons on the career readiness and such, all of that's going to be in there as well. And then of course they work with our ClassLinks. So they integrate with ClassLinks. So that's something that's helpful for us as well. So anyway, I'll give you a chance to kind of go through this at your leisure so you can kind of see what they offer, but I wanted to at least scroll down here just a little bit so you could see some of the things that they cover. I think you guys will like using this. I think it'll be something that is helpful. And there are, you know, I hesitate to use the word game, but there are definitely some incentives to using typing.com for your students. So there are some kind of fun things that you could use as carrots for your students to get some of these things done. So anyway, I'll give you a chance to look at this on your own, but I wanted to scroll through some of it so you could see. Typing.com will definitely be replacing the EduTyping. So if you had EduTyping before, you'll notice that that has disappeared off of Clever. It won't show up in ClassLink, and instead, we opted to purchase a different resource that I think you're really going to like, and that's the BE Publishing eReadiness Bundle. This too should be on ClassLink. We do have it ordered right now. This is taking place in August of 2020. So right now it's been ordered. We're just waiting to get our subscription information. In the meantime, however, we do have access to a free trial through the end of this month, through August 31st of 2020. So I put the information in here for you to go in and get yourself a free trial if you want. This is coming, it has been approved, so just know that this is going to be available to you. One of the cool things about BE Publishing, and I know that I probably have, some of my business teachers have used pieces of it over the year, different publications that they've put out, is that with this e-readiness bundle, they basically revamped their companion site, and they set it up so that now if you have a subscription to this e-readiness website, you can bundle it. So we have access to all of the titles, anywhere from any device that we want, and we can do it either live or on demand. We can download textbooks that are electronic, which is huge right now in a virtual learning environment, and we can have as many students and as many teachers access this as we want. And that again is huge. So in this eReadiness bundle, we essentially have access to every title that BE Publishing offers and anything that they offer under that title. So not all of them are the same. That's to me, I don't know, I think that kind of cuts both ways. I like consistency on the one hand, but I understand that not every content topic or subject that they cover is going to be covered the same way, and that's just the way that they operate. That's always the way that they've been. But as you go through some of these, you can click on them. This is why I think the trial is so great. You'll be able to click on them and see if there's something that's beneficial to you. One of the reasons I opened it up to this course was because there was some career readiness stuff in there and some tech readiness stuff in there. And I thought that might be something. There's some cyber safety, you know, that might be helpful. If this is overwhelming to you and you feel like everything that we've already talked about is more than enough, then stick with that. That's okay. I wanted to make sure that we had something that would be a nice option, a nice resource for you to lean back on. And much like the code.org that's so comprehensive, the great part about what BE Publishing does offer in their titles is that it's pretty comprehensive. So it, I think, is going to be a great trade-off between the EduTyping and getting all of these publishing titles and all of the access to their digital materials. I think that was a pretty good trade-off in my eyes. So at any rate, that's about everything I want to share with you today about this course. As always, anytime you have a question, please don't hesitate to reach out. I know right now it's probably easier to do that using email rather than phone, but just know that I'm really responsive, and anything that's going to help support you and support your students, that's what I'm all about. So I hope you guys have a great year this year, and I look forward to working with you.